Warm spring sunshine bathed the Harrison family mansion in Lexington's upscale neighborhood on the outskirts of Boston. That morning, Robert Harrison was sipping coffee brewed by his wife Elizabeth while scanning the newspaper at the breakfast table. "I heard from Brittany again," Elizabeth said, adjusting her white apron. "Dinner with James's parents was a success. That girl is always perfect." Robert smiled at his wife over the top of his glasses. "Of course she is. A Harvard-educated lawyer. She's our pride and joy." For Robert, who had built a successful career in finance, and Elizabeth, once the belle of Boston society, their younger daughter Brittany was the ideal child. An excellent student who graduated from Harvard Law School, she was now thriving at a prestigious Boston law firm, consistently meeting her parents' expectations. "By the way, have you heard anything from Melissa?" Robert asked while returning his attention to the stock section of the newspaper. Though he tried to sound casual, there was a hint of tension in his voice. Elizabeth sighed. "Nothing from that girl. She doesn't even send Christmas cards." Her lips tightened. "She left home right after high school. I still don't understand why she wouldn't go to college." The atmosphere in the Harrison household always grew heavy when the eldest daughter's name came up. To the family, Melissa was the incomprehensible one. Despite excellent grades in high school, she had refused to attend the prestigious university her parents had arranged for her and left home at 18. "She has always defied our expectations," Robert frowned. "Given our social standing, to have a daughter who's just a high school graduate and still single." "Brittany recently called Melissa the family disgrace," Elizabeth added in a hushed voice. "It sounds harsh, but she's not wrong." Robert stood up, folding his newspaper. "Melissa made her own choices. But considering our social position, she could have shown a bit more consideration." He checked his watch. "Brittany and her fiancé James are coming today, correct?" "Yes, for brunch. You said you wanted to hear about Foster Industries, the company James's father owns." The topic of Melissa ended there, as it usually did. Her name occasionally surfaced in family conversations but was quickly replaced by other subjects. Meanwhile, in a small apartment in Cambridge, about an hour's drive from Boston, Melissa Harrison was eating breakfast alone. The modest room contained only essential furniture and an abstract painting on the wall. Her phone rang, and Melissa smiled when she checked the screen. "Good morning, Sam." "Morning, boss. The materials for today's meeting are ready," a young man's voice responded. "Thank you. I'll see you at the office at 10. After ending the call, Melissa gazed out the window. Spring sunshine brightened the streets. Her mind wandered to the news she'd received that morning: her sister Brittany was engaged. Melissa had been estranged from her family for years, but she occasionally heard from her mother's cousin Angela. This morning's email informed her that Brittany was engaged to James Foster, an executive at the major Boston corporation Foster Industries. "Congratulations, Brittany," Melissa raised her coffee cup. "A perfect choice, as always." Melissa hadn't shared much about her career or life with her family. They didn't know what the high school graduate who left home was doing now. That had been her choice. Still, deep in her heart burned a small flame of desire to someday be recognized by them. After getting ready, Melissa left her apartment. While the apartment was modest, her car was not. She climbed into a black Tesla Model S and headed toward her company. She wondered if she would be invited to her sister's wedding. Though her relationship with her family was distant, she secretly hoped an invitation would arrive. Despite how they had treated her, Brittany was still her sister. And family was family. Melissa's office was on the top floor of a modern glass building in Cambridge's redevelopment district. As CEO of Infinity Tech, she had grown a small IT company into an industry giant over 10 years. Her company primarily develops security systems for government agencies and major corporations, so while not well known to the general public, it was highly respected within the industry. "Melissa, you have a meeting at 2, Sam Chan, her young assistant, entered her office. "And here's the mail that arrived this morning." Melissa checked through the stack of envelopes, bills, industry magazines, invitations. She paused at one envelope with the Harrison family address written in elegant script. But it wasn't a wedding invitation from her sister. It was a brief note from Elizabeth Harrison, merely informing her of Brittany and James's engagement party. There were no words of invitation, just a notification. Melissa sighed. Reminding herself that she shouldn't have expected anything different, she tucked the letter into a drawer. Sam, could you bring me the materials for the 2 o'clock meeting? Later that evening, Melissa sat on her sofa with a glass of wine and turned on the television. The screen showed her sister's fiancé, James Foster, speaking as an executive of Foster Industries about new business developments. With his handsome features and confident manner, he was undoubtedly the ideal match her parents wanted for her sister. Her phone rang. Though the number was unfamiliar, Melissa answered. Hello, Melissa Harrison speaking. Melissa. A woman's voice came through. After a moment of silence, it's Brittany. Melissa sat up, surprised. Brittany? It's been a while. Yes. Melissa could tell her sister was choosing her words carefully. Did you hear from Mother? I received her letter. Congratulations on your engagement. Thank you, Brittany's voice was cold. I need to tell you something directly. Melissa tensed, straightening her back. What is it? About the wedding, Brittany took a short breath. I don't want you to come. The words stabbed into Melissa's heart. She was momentarily speechless. What did you say? You heard me, Brittany's voice grew crueler. I'm sorry, but this is my special day. Considering James's family and our social standing, having a sister who's just a high school graduate and single is, frankly, embarrassing. Melissa was stunned. She had been estranged from her family before, but never so directly rejected. Brittany, you're embarrassed to have me as your sister? Face reality, Brittany said coldly. What have you been doing since you left home? Probably some small job. Everyone in James's family attended prestigious universities. You're not the kind of sister I can present to the Foster family. Brittany. Another voice was heard on the phone. Her parents seemed to be present too. Melissa, it's us, came Robert's voice. Brittany's words might seem harsh, but surely you understand her feelings. Melissa was speechless. You made your choices, now it was Elizabeth's voice. Going against the family's expectations. Don't become an even greater family disgrace now. Melissa's hands trembled. I am a family disgrace? Accept reality, Elizabeth continued. Brittany's wedding will be a major society event. Having you there. I'm sorry, but you would be out of place. I understand, Melissa said quietly. Enough. Don't worry, I won't come. After hanging up, the silence of the room enveloped her. The pain of rejection by her family hit her again. Melissa walked to the window and gazed at the night view as tears rolled down her cheeks. No matter how successful she became, the pain of not being accepted by her family remained unhealed. The next morning, Melissa went to her office early. Sam looked at her with concern. Are you all right? Yes, just some family issues, Melissa gave a wry smile. How are the latest reports from our clients? Everything's on track, Sam handed her a tablet. Also, a new industry magazine arrived. There's a feature article on Foster Industries. Melissa scanned it, her expression suddenly changing. According to the article, while Foster Industries maintained a successful facade, it was actually facing a serious financial crisis. The founder, Foster Sr., had retired, and the current management was seeking a buyer to rebuild the company. Sam, investigate Foster Industries' financial situation further, Melissa said quietly. A few hours later, the investigation results were placed on her desk. Foster Industries was on the brink of bankruptcy. Executives, including James Foster, were hiding this fact and projecting a successful image to shareholders and the public. Melissa sank deep into her chair. Did her sister Brittany know? Probably not. James must be hiding the truth from her too. Did he love her, or was he after the Harrison family's social status and wealth? It was time for a decision. Though the words from her sister and parents had wounded her deeply, she still wanted to protect her family. Especially her sister. Sam, could you call Jennifer from legal? Melissa stood up. And prepare a confidentiality agreement. When Sam returned, Melissa's face showed determination. I'm going to acquire Foster Industries, she said quietly. But in complete secrecy. My name shouldn't appear anywhere. Acquisition. Sam was surprised. But why keep it secret? Melissa gazed out the window. Personal reasons. That night, Melissa made a decision. She would not attend the wedding. But she would send a special gift. She sat at her desk and began to write a letter. On the wedding day, Boston's St. Thomas Cathedral gleamed in the spring sunlight. Light streaming through medieval-style stained glass windows created a rainbow of colors inside the lavishly decorated venue. Over 300 guests filled the cathedral, each in their finest attire, gathered to celebrate the union of the Harrison and Foster families. Everything's perfect, Elizabeth Harrison said in her daughter Brittany's dressing room, overseeing the final adjustments to her wedding dress. The designer gown, made of the finest silk and lace, enhanced Brittany's elegant presence. I've imagined this day for so long, Elizabeth continued in a sentimental voice. From the moment you were born, you were always special. And now, you're making the perfect marriage. Brittany smiled at her reflection in the mirror. Thank you, Mom. There was a knock at the door, and Robert entered. Dressed in formal attire, he immediately teared up at the sight of his daughter. I'm sorry, he took out a handkerchief to wipe his eyes. A father can't help getting emotional seeing his daughter in her wedding dress. Brittany rushed to her father and embraced him. Dad, today is the best day of my life. I'm so glad you and Mom are here with me. The three embraced, savoring their family bond. However, in that perfect moment, the absence of the fourth family member cast a quiet shadow. No one mentioned it, but Melissa's absence hung in the air like a subtle void. The wedding planner entered the room. A gift has arrived. There was a special request to open it before the ceremony. A gift? Brittany looked slightly surprised. From whom? There's a card attached. The planner presented a beautifully wrapped small box. Brittany took it and read the attached card. Her expression hardened momentarily. It's from Melissa. Elizabeth and Robert exchanged glances. You don't have to open it, Elizabeth said quietly. No, I will, Brittany said firmly. She decided not to come, but at least she sent a gift. She untied the ribbon and carefully removed the wrapping paper. Inside was a fine wooden box containing a letter and an official document. I'll read it. Brittany opened the letter. Dear Brittany, I regret not being able to celebrate your special day with you. However, as your sister, I can't help but wish for your happiness. I hope this gift will help your future. With love. Melissa. Brittany frowned. That's brief. She turned to the document. It was a legal certificate regarding ownership of Foster Industries. As she continued reading, her expression changed from confusion to surprise to fear. What is it? Elizabeth asked worriedly. Brittany seemed at a loss for words. Her hands began to shake, nearly dropping the document. Brittany. Robert placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. This can't be true. Brittany's voice was hoarse. She suddenly stood up, clutching the document. I need to check this. She rushed out of the dressing room and hurried to where James was preparing in another room of the cathedral. Elizabeth and Robert followed in confusion. Brittany threw open the door to James's room. He was chatting with his groomsmen but looked surprised at her sudden appearance. "Brittany?" "They say it's bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony," he said with a smile, but it faded when he saw her expression. "What's wrong?" "Explain this." Brittany held out the trembling document. James took it and read through it. The color visibly drained from his face. Where did you get this?" His voice was unsteady. "From Melissa." "My sister." Brittany's voice was sharp. "Was your company on the verge of bankruptcy? And now my sister is the owner?" The room fell silent. The groomsmen awkwardly began to leave. By the time Robert and Elizabeth entered, the couple was alone. "What's happening?" Robert asked in a stern voice. "Dad, James has been lying to us," Brittany said, her voice tearful. "Foster Industries was about to go bankrupt. And now Melissa has acquired the company." "What?" Robert looked at James with disbelief. James wiped sweat from his brow with trembling hands. "I can explain. The company was facing temporary financial difficulties, but..." "Temporary?" Brittany pointed at the document. "According to this, the company has been preparing for bankruptcy proceedings for months. And now Melissa is the owner?" Elizabeth asked in confusion. "What does that mean?" "We don't know what Melissa has been doing." Tears flowed from Brittany's eyes. "Lies, why you? Why?" She finally exploded, shouting at James. "Were you laughing at our family? Were you using me, trying to get at the Harrison family fortune?" Her shouts leaked from the room and reached the ears of nearby guests. Several people gathered in the hallway, wondering what was happening. "That's not it, Brittany," James desperately tried to explain. "I love you. I just thought the company's problems would be a family disgrace, so..." "Family disgrace?" Brittany laughed bitterly. "How ironic. We called my sister a family disgrace, but actually she..." She broke off. Robert took the document and read it carefully. "It seems true that Melissa has acquired Foster Industries. She's the CEO of an IT company called Infinity Tech." His expression showed disbelief. "This company is one of the fastest growing in the industry." "That girl," Elizabeth said, looking dazed. "High school graduate Melissa?" Rumors were already spreading among the guests. Hearing Brittany's shouts, they sensed something was wrong and began gathering around the dressing room. Amid confusion and anger, Brittany grabbed the hem of her wedding dress and rushed into the hallway. There, relatives and friends waited with concerned expressions. "Brittany, are you okay?" her best friend Ashley asked. Brittany didn't respond. She walked all the way to the cathedral entrance and stood in the sunlight outside. Tears shining on her cheeks caught the light. In her mind, memories of her sister Melissa flashed by like a slideshow, Melissa helping with her homework when they were children, Melissa saying she would go her own way before leaving home after high school, and recently, Brittany herself hurling hurtful words at her over the phone. "Brittany," her mother Elizabeth called from behind. "The guests are waiting. What are you going to do?" Brittany slowly turned around. Her expression showed determination. "Contact Melissa," she said firmly. "We need to talk." 3 days later, a luxury car glided into a quiet Cambridge neighborhood under cloudy skies. Brittany Harrison parked in front of an apartment building and double-checked the address. She could hardly believe her sister lived in such a modest building. She turned off the engine, took a deep breath, and got out of the car. After spending several confused days since the wedding was cancelled, Brittany had finally decided to meet her sister. She pressed the doorbell and waited. When the door opened, Melissa stood there. Dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, she looked like she had been working from home. They stared at each other for a moment. "Come in," Melissa said quietly. Brittany entered the apartment. She seemed a bit surprised by the sparse yet sophisticated interior. "Sit down," Melissa gestured toward the living room. "I'll make coffee." No, thank you, Brittany said coldly. I don't plan to stay long. Melissa sighed and sat in a chair opposite her sister. What do you want? I want you to explain why you acquired Foster Industries, Brittany got straight to the point. Her voice held anger. Was it to ruin my wedding? Revenge. Melissa smiled quietly. Is that what you think? You were angry because I told you not to come, weren't you? So you tried to ruin my life, tears welled in Brittany's eyes. Why? You've always stayed away from the family. Why now? Did James know? Melissa calmly interjected. That his company was on the verge of bankruptcy, Melissa stood and headed toward the kitchen. While making coffee, she continued, did he know? And did he tell you? Brittany faltered. He said it was a temporary cash flow problem. Temporary. Melissa returned with coffee cups. His company has been in the red for 2 years and had begun preparing for bankruptcy 6 months ago. Brittany looked surprised. How did you know all this? I run an IT company, Melissa said quietly. We specialize in information security and data analysis. It's not difficult to investigate a company's financial situation. You have a company? Brittany asked in confusion. Melissa sighed. I'm the CEO of Infinity Tech. I started it 10 years ago, and now it's one of the top companies in the industry. But you're just a high school graduate. Education doesn't necessarily guarantee success, Melissa smiled. After high school, I taught myself programming and information security. I got certifications and started with a small company. I didn't go to college, but I kept learning while gaining practical experience. Brittany sat speechless, her worldview seemingly shaken. So why did you buy James's company? She asked in a small voice. Melissa was silent for a moment, sipping her coffee. To protect you. Me? I saw an article in an industry magazine by chance, Melissa began explaining. It contained insider information that Foster Industries was in financial trouble. I realized it was your fiancé's company. When I investigated, I found they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And James was hiding it. So I acquired the company, Melissa said quietly. Even if you married him, the company wouldn't go bankrupt. His position would be protected. Tears flowed from Brittany's eyes. But why on the wedding day? I didn't intend to let you know that day, Melissa said apologetically. I sent the documents as a gift to quietly reveal the truth after your marriage. I didn't expect you to open it before the ceremony. Brittany stumbled over her words. Even after I said such terrible things to you on the phone. Melissa stood up from her chair and walked to the window. Family is family. No matter what you say, you're still my sister. Brittany covered her face with her hands and began to cry loudly. Memories from childhood filled her heart, how Melissa had always protected her, how Melissa never blamed her even when their parents compared the two and criticized Melissa. I'm sorry. She sobbed. For saying such horrible things to you. Melissa sat next to her sister and placed a hand on her shoulder. It's okay. But what should I do now? With James? That's for you to decide, Melissa said quietly. Whether he truly loves you or was after the Harrison family's wealth. But he still has options. He can continue working at the company. Brittany looked into her sister's eyes. You've really succeeded, haven't you? And yet No one tried to understand why I left home, Melissa said, a little sadly. Not going to college doesn't necessarily mean failing in life. I just chose my own path. Do Mom and Dad know about your success? No, Melissa shook her head. They probably found out for the first time with this incident. The two sat quietly, drinking coffee and gazing at the view outside the window. Rain had begun to fall, and the droplets running down the window pane made their silence comfortable. Have you talked to James? Melissa asked quietly. Brittany shook her head. He's contacted me many times since the wedding, but I haven't responded. I needed time to think. He might still love you, Melissa said carefully. Just because he had financial problems doesn't necessarily mean he was using you. Why are you so kind? He didn't even know about your company. Melissa laughed softly. I'm the owner of Infinity Tech, but I'm not that well known publicly. I rarely appear as the company's representative. Is that why you live so modestly? Brittany looked around the apartment. This is just my public apartment, Melissa smiled. I have another house in the suburbs. But I sometimes stay here to keep myself grounded. The sky brightened a little as the rain lightened. Between the two of them, a new understanding seemed to be dawning, filling the gap of many years. What will you do now? Brittany asked quietly. That depends on you, Melissa said gently. Whether you continue your relationship with James or look for a new path. Whatever you choose, I'll be by your side. Brittany took her sister's hand. I need to go home and talk to Mom and Dad. They should know about you too. Melissa took a nervous breath. Do you think they'll accept me? They'll have to, Brittany said with a determined voice. You're the family member we should be proud of. At the Harrison family home in Lexington, a family gathering was taking place in the garden bathed in autumn sunlight. Orange and red leaves danced in the wind, and Elizabeth's homemade dishes were laid out on a large table on the terrace. How's the cake? Elizabeth asked Melissa. Her attitude held a warmth that wasn't there a few months ago. It's delicious, Mom, Melissa smiled. Just like it used to be. Robert raised his wine glass and addressed the family. Today is a special day. Let's celebrate the completion of Melissa's new office building. Everyone raised their glasses to Melissa. She smiled, looking slightly embarrassed. 6 months had passed since that wedding day. Brittany and James had postponed their marriage, taking time to reconsider their relationship. James had acknowledged his mistakes and begun working earnestly under Melissa's company. His business sense and efforts were gradually earning Melissa's trust. How are the preparations for next week's small engagement party? Melissa asked Brittany. Brittany smiled peacefully. Going well. This time we're planning a small gathering with just family. I've learned what's truly important, rather than flashy events. She and James had rebuilt a more honest relationship and had just announced their engagement again. This time, their wedding would be a heartfelt ceremony with only truly important people invited, rather than a social event. Melissa, I'm truly sorry for back then, Robert said with a serious expression. We were full of prejudice. We didn't respect your choices or try to understand. It's okay, Dad, Melissa said gently. I should have explained more about my choices too. Elizabeth looked at her daughter with tearful eyes. You were always special. Yet we tried to force you into a mold. In a corner of the terrace, James was on the phone alone. When he hung up, he returned to the table looking somewhat tense. Everything okay? Brittany asked worriedly. Yes, just about a new project, he smiled stiffly. James still struggled with his position. Once an executive of his own company, he now worked under his future sister-in-law. His pride was occasionally wounded, but he was trying to overcome it. Melissa watched him and smiled quietly. She understood his struggle. She too had faced many emotions in the process of repairing her relationship with her family. Families are complicated, Melissa whispered to Brittany. But they're the most important thing, Brittany squeezed her sister's hand. Thanks to you, I learned that. As the evening light bathed the garden in gold, the four talked quietly. The wounds of the past wouldn't heal easily, but they had taken the first steps toward understanding and forgiveness. That night, under the starry sky, the Harrison family felt a new beginning. Through life's trials, they were learning what true family bonds, love, and success really meant.